Welcome to the Unstoppable Joy podcast, where functional medicine meets the power of Jesus Christ. I'm your host, Kathryn McAdam. I'm a functional medicine nurse practitioner, a Christian speaker and author, and co-founder of Sozo Functional Medicine. My journey through health challenges, heartache, and overcoming adversity has deepened my understanding of healing. It's not just the physical, but also mental, emotional, and spiritual. In every episode, we explore the path to greater joy, vitality, and spiritual awakening. This podcast is for anyone seeking not only physical wellness, but also spiritual renewal, firmly rooted in the teachings of Jesus. So, whether you're a devoted listener or joining us for the first time, welcome to the Unstoppable Joy podcast. We'll be offering you the tools and wisdom to unlock your true potential and experience boundless joy. So, pull up a chair, grab your favorite beverage, and let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Unstoppable Joy podcast. I'm your host, Kathryn McAdam, and that's Henry back there. He is my Jack Russell. He is 98, and he's going to help me today. So, let's talk about diet. There are so many different ideas about what we should eat, what we shouldn't eat, and really it's very individual. But I just have some general things that I want to share with you today, just about how to portion out your meals and what kind of foods you should be incorporating and making sure that you get into your diet. For many years, we've in America been following the standard American diet, and the acronym is SAD, and it is pretty sad, basically because of where it's gotten us. So the SAD diet consists of a pyramid. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's mostly carbs at the bottom, and then it works its way up. I think the top may be some fats, and it's just really imbalanced. I've talked about before in the podcast about how the food industry really pushed for these scientists back in, I think, the 1950s, 50s to lie about the cause of cardiovascular disease and blame it on fats, when in actuality it should be blamed on sugar, because sugar is what does the damage to our vessels. And it's the fats that kind of got caught holding the bag, basically, because it's the cholesterol that shows up to the damaged vessels to do the repair. And so it's not necessarily the cholesterol's fault, it's just they're doing its job. It's actually the root cause of that is the sugar, because sugar is really like shards of glass going through our vessels, and it causes damage. And anyway, so today's diet, what I'm going to talk about today, is basically a revised food pyramid. The basis of the food pyramid is actually vegetables, specifically greens, mostly greens and veggies, green leafy veggies and cruciferous vegetables that are like things like broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, kale, turnip greens, all that stuff. So that makes up the bottom of the food pyramid. And then the next thing that we go to is quality protein. Now I say quality protein because there is a big difference between the kind of protein that you get that is highly processed. They've actually shown that processed meat, or things like sausage, things like pepperonis and lunch meat, if they contain nitrates, then they are actually carcinogenic. And it's not just, they cause, some people some cancer. It's actually been proven that they are as carcinogenic as smoking. And I think that is just crazy that they're even allowed to put that stuff in our food, but I digress. So the next part of the food pyramid is water. So we've got greens, veggies, protein, and then water. And our body needs water to do all the processes that it does, digesting our food, creating energy, our ability to filter the toxins out of our body is all because of water. And so after water, we have fresh fruits and then organic fats, herbs and spices, of course, our teas and our coffees, and then at the top is some dark chocolate. So all these things that we have available to us, and really what we should be focusing on is eating things that God created. None of this stuff that is highly processed, things that we call frankenfoods. Basically, they've been created in a lab. It's not actual, just naturally existing food that was created for us to enjoy. So things like packaged crackers and sauces and all this stuff, a lot of those things have a lot of sugar added to them. As a matter of fact, the other day I was eating some nuts that we always eat and looked at the package and I was like, oh my gosh, darned if they would have put sugar in the nuts. I don't understand why they did that. I'm guessing they did it to help the seasoning that I had on the nuts stick to the nuts. But anyway, so you just have to really look, because they put sugar in a lot of things. They've put all kinds of additives and preservatives and colors. And there are certain things that are packaged that have more natural ingredients. And basically, if you can't pronounce it, don't be eating it. So that's the basis of the food pyramid, the whole food pyramid. But how do you create a diet around that? And how much of what things do you eat? What is a portion? And, as I've learned over the years, what actually consists of a portion of fruits or a portion of veggies, it's been really enlightening. And years ago, I started on a diet program called Body for Life. And it was really an awesome place to start, because it really gave you an idea of where to start as far as portions. And you have it right here. It's your hand. And so it's super helpful to kind of be able to use your hand as a guide. Everybody is different. Everybody has different size hands. So like if you're a big guy, like my husband Joe has a ginormous hand, and we have been kind of joking that he has giant thumbs. Just a little joke between the two of us, but he doesn't necessarily have giant thumbs, but compared to mine, they are giant. And so like his size of protein and his size of carbs per his hand is bigger than mine, which it should be. And if you just start with the amount of protein that you should have, you want to think about this portion of your hand. So if you're looking at a portion of protein, it should be about the size of the outer side of your palm. And so for you, that would be your portion of protein. Your portion of veggies, if you make a fist, it should be about that big. And then your carbs should be able to be held in the palm of your hand, so smaller. And then fats should be about the size of your thumb. Can you see that? So again, protein, the size of the outside of your palm of your hand and about as thick, right? Veggies about the size of your fist. Carbs should fit in the palm of your hand. So think about a small apple or a small potato, and then fats about the size of your thumb. So how do you put all that together? This is just a general rule, and obviously this isn't a prescribed diet for anybody, but eating healthy it's kind of a moving target, right? We have been brainwashed over the years to think that eating a diet that's low in fat, high in carbs was healthy. That's what we all were taught when we were back in the 80s, and we all believed that. And so even today, sometimes I'm preparing a meal and I'm tempted to think, oh, I should cut back on the fat. And to a point, yeah, you don't need a lot of fat. It's very calorie dense. And as you may have heard through this podcast or from other sources, that diet isn't necessarily the calories in, calories out. That's not the end all be all to losing weight or maintaining a healthy weight, because everybody digests food differently. You can have factors in your gut that cause you to absorb more nutrients. It causes you to store more fat than burn the fat. And so getting to the bottom of what's going on with you and what's working for you is key, but everybody can benefit from eating healthy, I say healthy, whole foods, so real food. Some people, if they have trouble digesting vegetables, to work your way up to being able to consume that amount of vegetables in a day, you might need to at first be cooking most of your vegetables. And so basically allowing your body to just begin to have more fiber in a cooked form, a little easier to digest because roughage, but the green leafy vegetables and things like peppers and kale and cauliflower and carrots and asparagus, all those things, they have a lot of fiber in them, and so they can be difficult to digest for some people. So I've made this little graph, and excuse me because it's not very pretty, it's not very savvy, but just to give you an idea. So just imagine this is your dinner plate, and about half of it is filled with vegetables. Now this is greens and whatever other vegetables that you want. And then the red part here is about a quarter of your plate, and that would be your proteins. And then the purpley part here, that would be things that are considered carbs. Now you have to be careful because carbs are not just rice, potatoes, pasta, bread. Carbs can be things like starchy vegetables, like carrots, like corn, like squash, and of course potatoes, so those are your carbs as well as fruit. You might not think about it, but fruit is a carb. And most fruits like berries and that sort of thing, like a cup of those is consistent of one serving. So remember, like the size of your fist. So it's about a cup. So about a cup of berries, about a cup of chopped watermelon or cantaloupe. But when it comes to certain things like a banana, bananas have a lot of sugar in them. And so if you have a regular sized banana, half a banana is a serving size. And then, let's get my little diagram here. I have a little circle here, and that represents fats. So if you thought about balancing your meals this way, you would be a lot farther in your health journey. Balancing your protein and your carbs here, that is super helpful for maintaining a consistent blood sugar. If you just have, like for breakfast, very sugary things like cereal with milk has a tremendous amount of sugar in it, cow's milk. And so if you have a bowl of cereal, which is a lot of times, your serving size for cereal, it's not a cup. It's like, some of it's like a quarter cup or a third of a cup. But people have these giant bowls, they fill it with a lot of cereal, which is more than one serving, and then they fill it, full of milk. And a lot of times it's more than a cup of milk. So I want to say milk has at least 12 grams of sugar in it per cup, which that's crazy. Anyway, so if that's your breakfast, you're basically having just all carbs. You're not really having much protein. Milk has some protein in it, but it's more carbs than protein. And so when you want to start thinking about the foods that you eat and what you should be consuming, start thinking about, okay, I need to have a balance of protein and carbs. Really, if you can have more protein than carbs, you're better off. But protein and fats, think of those as like your big logs that you put on the fire. So your body is like a fire. You want to build that fire and let it burn, right? So in order to create a fire, you need those big logs to burn and slow burn and take that time to sustain that heat and generate that heat long term. The carbs are like the kindling that you light, and they burn quick. They give you that instant amount of high heat, but then they fizzle out and they're gone. So carbs, like a piece of fruit, it's still going to give you that quick energy and that burn. It has more fiber, so it's better than eating like a piece of cake, but you'll still have that swift increase in your blood sugar. And then your body's job, if it's correctly working, will send insulin to grab that sugar and shove it into the cells so that it can use it for energy. But when we have excess sugar, then we store that extra sugar as fat. And so if you're able to maintain a more even keel of that blood sugar level, you're not having this up and down and up and down, and you don't have that excess of sugar hanging around, so your body won't be storing it as fat. So, just think about this. Think about half of your plate being veggies, half of it being a protein, and half of it being a carb. Now, the carbs really should come from, fresh fruits and veggies that are more like carb heavy, which we talked about, like the potatoes, the squash, the carrots, that sort of thing, and leave the other veggies to be things like your kale, your onions, your peppers, all those yummy things like asparagus and broccoli and cauliflower. And then don't forget those fats. So fats, good fats, are things like butter from cows that are grass-fed, and olive oil, coconut oil, nuts, and seed butters. Those things are all really good fats. You just have to be careful, because growing up in the 80s, everybody was crazy about the canola oil and the corn oil, and that stuff is just junk. It's basically carcinogenic, and you really should keep it out of your diet because it's not healthy for you whatsoever. They bill it as it being healthy, but it's really not. So that goes back to the fats getting the bad rap and trying to make different fats that are basically processed in a lab. So that would be in the category of the frankenfoods. So try to stay away from those frankenfoods. Try to eat things that are natural, that God created and provided for us to just pluck off the tree or the vine and be able to eat. I just think that's crazy to think about. So Adam and Eve in the garden, God created all of this food for them to eat. And I just get a little chuckle when I think about that God created these little balls of sweetness like grapes and blueberries and cherries and strawberries, these little balls of sweetness so that we could taste them and enjoy the flavor and the sweetness. And, same thing goes with, those veggies, having that crunch of some celery or, a carrot or broccoli, and just being able to taste those things and really just enjoy the different flavors and the different textures, and how neat that those things were created for us to enjoy. So if you want some more information about diet and health and just general guidance, we're going to be doing a 6-week challenge, a weight loss challenge for anyone who's interested. So if you want to find out more, you can come on over to sozofunctionalmedicine.com, and we'll be putting a link there for our challenge. And you can also just DM me. I'll be at Sozo Functional Medicine on Facebook and Instagram. You should be able to find me there too. And we'll put the links in the comment of the podcast today. But I just want to encourage you that, it's not about being perfect. It's not about being perfect all the time, because that's a misnomer. Like, if you feel like you got to be perfect all the time in your eating, in your exercise and everything, you're just setting yourself up for failure. I like to take an approach of an anti-diet approach, because really it's not about being temporarily perfect. It's about being consistently good and making those good choices, being empowered with the education that you have about what good food is, what clean food is, and then start to journal about how you feel when you eat that food, because writing down consistently what you're putting in your body will help you realize, gosh, there's a pattern here. I crave sugar at night, or when I'm feeling stressed or, sad or lonely, I tend to turn to food. And when you start to understand those patterns, you can start to then break them. And so if anyone is wanting to be a part of our challenge and be a part of our community, then please come on over to sozofunctionalmedicine.com, and we will definitely be glad to have you join our challenge and be a part of our community. And let's see if we can make a difference in how we're feeling in the next 6 weeks. So it's going to be a 6-week challenge. It will be starting in a couple weeks here. So we'll be gearing up here in the next couple weeks with more education and equipping you. And then once you join the challenge, you'll be able to use, we have an app that you can use to help track your food and your exercise. And yes, exercise is important. And we'll be talking about that as well. And I just want to be able to empower and equip people to be able to take good care of themselves. You know, there's so much confusion out there regarding like how to eat and what to eat and when to eat. And we'll be talking about that in this class that we have, or this challenge that we have coming up. So I hope to see you there. I hope you have a great rest of your week and you're able to just kind of put into place some of these things, even just take one thing to work on. Like maybe I'm going to try to have an extra serving of vegetables at each meal and see how you feel. See if that makes a difference. So I hope you have a great rest of your week. Be blessed.